All right, peace, 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 peace. What's good, folks? You are in tune to the I Stand the Rises Creation podcast um, on YouTube Live. Now, I got something for y'all. Like, if y'all, just in case y'all was under a rock before the whole Kendrick Drake situation, right? I didn't know this myself, and I didn't know that there was and for some reason the aforementioned the guys that I just mentioned before, Kanye West was also brewing in this beef as well between Talib, Kweli, and Consequence. Now, now, if y'all didn't know, Talib Kweli and Consequence, them two were working together on some of Consequence. He well, his the only album that I knew of Consequence was "Don't Quit Your Day Job." That was a dope album, by the way. And I think he dropped that album around the time when Kanye was like, heating up. I think this was probably around the time when between what was that? I believe late registration or graduation. Don't quote me, because it was Kanye West's three dope projects that he dropped. That he became like the college dropout, late registration, and graduation. Now, Consequence dropped the album called "Don't Quit Your Day Job," and I'm I probably don't know everything, and this is why I have to do my research on stuff. But Consequence and Talib were working on some of the stuff together. Now, to fast forward online, them two were going at it with each other, Instagram, wherever. I think it was mainly Instagram. I was seeing them going back and forth. It was a spat back and forth, but I always looked at Consequence as and by the way, he's Q-Tip's cousin as well. So for him, when he came in the game, he was kind of he was riding on those coattails. Now I don't know the man personally, so I can't really say whether or not that's what he was doing his whole entire career. But I know that nepotism and being related to certain people has its advantage. So therefore, he kind of sort of became, now I wouldn't say so much big of a name, even though like he worked with Kanye a lot, on stuff, and being as though that's what he was doing that. Then Talib, he was around circles like with Talib, Most, and Black Thought. He was around that type of circle. So I always looked at Consequence as like this backpack rapper. That's what I looked at him as. I that's what I thought. I'm saying to myself, wow, this dude, Don't Quit Your Day Job was actually a dope project. So when that joint came out, I know Kanye was on there. They had the song Grammy Family on there. I'm not sure if Talib was on that album, but I know that the few other projects that Consequence did, those projects went on to be, I guess they didn't do what Don't Quit Your Day Job did, but however, he was on a few joints with, well, Talib and him, they were collaborating. Let me pull up some of his because he doesn't Consequence doesn't really have a lengthy discography. He doesn't really have a lengthy like discography, record wise, but he does pack. I mean, he's a dope lyricist in my opinion. He is. I'm not going to take that away from the guy, but at the same time, he wasn't as big as some of his contemporaries. So a few of his projects that he did put out was and I didn't know this. I guess this is a mixtape album. Um The Cons 5, Refuse to Die, and then Movies on Demand 2. So and then his first project, Consequence first project, was called Take 'Em to the Cleaners. I didn't really get a chance to listen to that album. Um I know Kanye was on that, was on a record. He was on a few records on this album, and he collaborated with Little Brother, John Legend. So I'm assuming that Take 'Em to the Cleaners, which dropped in like 2004, it was a project that him and Kanye West um had, not necessarily them both. uh, I mean, even though Kanye West collaborated on a few tracks on that album, but I don't think that it's an album that's. I'm not sure if it's produced solely by Kanye West, but I know that it's a Consequence solo album. So that was, I mean, I would not think that I'll be sitting here really talking about this Consequence, but because I titled this video Talib Kweli versus Talib Kweli and Jay Rawls, because they just put a project out, and Talib been going overtime. His discography is very lengthy. So I'm a big Talib Kweli fan. I'm going to admit that. Black Star, all that. Most Yasin Bey, yeah, what his name is now. I'm a big Black Star fan, so I look to Talib like as that dude. To me, he's really that dude. So, like when I heard about this supposed beef between them two, I just never thought how far further it got. But I think that it had a lot to do with well, of course, and consequences in his part, it had a lot to do with label woes. I don't know if I'm coming to defense for the man, but as far as label woes, him going through that, maybe even royalty or expected to be put on. I mean, it was a lot that he was stating, when he was dropping videos after video. So again, this is before like Drake and Kendrick, you know what I mean? So these two have been going at it with each other since like I think the last project when they did collaborate. So we talking about the top of 2000, them collaborating on a project, them supposedly, in the same circles, collaborating with each other. Consequence being around Talib and the Black Star movement, being around the Roots, him being around. He even Consequence's start was on a Tribe Called Quest album. I think it was Beats Rhymes of Life. I think it was that project where he was on there, and the song Stressed Out. He was on that song. So that joint that came out like around like 97, somewhere around that time. So that's where I was introduced to Consequence. I didn't really know that much about Consequence. And then actually, because I'm a big Tribe fan, like I forgot that Consequence was even on the song Stressed Out. I totally forgot that. So I'm like, wow. So okay, so here Consequence drops Don't Quit Your Day Job, and I'm like, wow, Consequence has come a long way. Not really hearing all the other projects that he dropped in the middle, like all the other projects that he dropped in between. That's what I'm trying to say. He dropped a bevy of projects. Him and Talib was, still had his Black Star. He was with Black Star, not with Black Star, but him and Most, they were Black Star. They came out in 98, did they thing. And I never knew like he was in those circles. Again, if you are related to such a person like Q-Tip, like you're related to Q-Tip, like it can have it can really have its benefits on getting put on. So Consequence got put on in in that fashion. Okay, I mean, I guess if the direction I guess I'm going with this is maybe in a way Consequence can get his flowers for like what he's contributed or what he's done, but I'm going to say it this way. I'm not sure if it wasn't for who he's related to and who he's been around, would we even know about him? So my thing is like when he did drop Don't Quit Your Day Job, or at least that's the project that I knew about because I'm looking at Consequence. I'm like, well, I'm not sure if many people know who he is, unless of course you're an avid hip hop head or you're really into this hip hop music that and Q-Tip. I mean, well, Tribe Called Quest, and you know that he made his appearance on one of his songs and one of their songs, and he dropped jewels on that, did his thing on that on the joint Stressed Out. That's how you would come to know who he is, and that's how it always works out when an artist collaborates with an artist or group. That's how you get introduced to who's who. Now, if he did anything before that, I wouldn't know about it. But like I said, I've only learned about Consequence only through, and I'm gonna say it this way: I knew about Consequence through Don't Quit Your Day Job, and that was one of my favorite albums. I'm gonna say because I think that project came out in like 1998, and that was one of my favorite projects. Now, don't quote me; I might be wrong. I might be wrong, but yeah. Well, okay, so they actually got it up here that was actually 2007. I didn't realize it was that. It was that's kind of still early in 2000s. It might have been a reissued album because I could have sworn 98 is when that album came out, but I could be wrong. It's been so long since I've even heard the album. I have it still even on CD, and it's been a while since we even knew who we heard this guy. So like he drops another album, he drops a new album, but actually didn't know the album. I didn't even know the album was even out, and I heard it. I heard it tonight. The album is called "Nice Doing Business with You," and that's why I titled this video "Talib Kweli and Rawls: The Confidence of Knowing versus Consequence. Nice doing business with you. Now, I heard the Talib joint myself, and that album is like I said, that guy has so cranked out so many albums. I mean, man, Talib has been putting in overtime when it comes to dropping stuff. So let me pull it up here. What he had because he just dropped Liberation 2. So he just dropped that joint. So okay. So on this one, okay, wait a minute. All right, so a total, and I don't even know if I can even count all these albums that he dropped. But he has a lengthy discography. Talib does. Talib's discography is crazy. And the thing about Talib, in my opinion, he's for the culture more than I can. I'm not going to sit here and say Consequences not for the culture, and because again, if we speak of these two artists, they both been around the same circles. They've been around each other. They collaborated on stuff together. They have. Um, what was that joint on? Take it to the cleaners because I just seen it. If I'm not mistaken, Consequence collaborated with Common and Talib on on this one record that they had put out. Wait a minute. Okay, so I could pull it up right here. Um, I could pull it up right here. I'm pulling it up. They had a joint called Whack Niggas. It was Kanye West, Common, and Talib. Whack Niggas. So as far as on that project, that was probably the only track that I seen Talib featured on. A joint called Whack Niggas. So okay, so these two must have been taking shots at each other since that track. And it's funny how they call the track Whack Niggas because Consequence thinks Talib is whack and Talib thinks Consequence is whack. So it's like they both like if we're going to fast forward to now we're in the advanced technological age now, Instagram and we have Instagram now, we have TikTok, we got all this stuff now, and so now you can even jump on these platforms and you can create a platform on these platforms, and that's where they took the IG thing. Consequence went further with it. They both did actually. Talib has his own podcast called The People's Party, where he's doing his thing, and just out of nowhere, like he has incurred a lot of haters. Now, I know that during the Trump era, like when Trump was president for 4 years or whatever, Talib was taking multiple shots at him. Like I mean, look, we don't, you don't agree. I mean, look, I'm gonna say this right now. This is not in no way, um, forming opinions around the political spectrum because I don't tend to go that direction with this stuff, with any of that. But I'm going to say this: that he had a lot of choice things to say between that, between the Trump presidency, Talib, I'm talking about, and also too, there was a lot of civil unrest going on with the police brutality stuff. So I believe it was between the Michael Brown, Trayvon Martin, George Floyd, and so many others. May we say their name? So many other cases that were going on behind police brutality. So Talib was avid in speaking on those things. He was very avid on speaking on like he speaks about those things anyway. The man is on pro-black. He's Afrocentric. He's a revolutionary MC. Talib is one of my favorites. Like I love Talib since like Reflection Eternal, that album. That was the first time I really, appreciated Talib's solo work, his career. Like Reflection Eternal goes down in history as a classic. Train of Thought. I believe that's what the album, because Reflection Eternal. Him and DJ High Tech together. When he first came into the game as a solo artist, he decided to drop the Reflection Eternal joint after the Black Star album. And that was, we talking about 98 now. 97, 98, the whole Raucous Records, transitioning from that to dropping the We Are Black Star, that album, Talib Kweli and Most Def, it went something like that. But We Are Black Star, you know what I mean? And when the Reflection Eternal album dropped, that really set it off for me. I was really like I was engaged in their music that much that I'm like, wow, like because this is a time, like I said, this was like a whole nother renaissance when hip hop was like really making its mark as a second golden era, the 90s I'm speaking of. So for Talib to start in that sense like that, For him to start like that, the reflect coming off of Black Star, drop the Reflection Eternal album, and then go on to drop numerous solo albums after that. So I could see like where really the hate was. I mean, him being around the roots, being around the whole neo soul movement, being around the whole conscious backpack movement. That like it was really a movement spawned from all of this stuff. So like as I'm looking at like the solo albums was coming, the solo albums was coming from Mr. Kweli. Kweli was dropping solo after solo after solo. I mean, where do I even begin? And dropping like mixtape albums. Like the dudes was getting busy as far as on the music. I mean, he even went on to drop Train of Thought, Lost Lyrics, rare releases, and Beautiful B-Sides, Volume 1. He went to drop that. I'm not sure if that album came before the Reflection Eternal. I believe it came after Reflection Eternal. Because like I said, most after Black Star dropped, after they dropped that Black Star album, then Mos Def went on to drop his solo album, Black on Both Sides. And that another classic, a defining classic at that. So you got to see both artists from Black Star become great solo artists in their own right. And then, I mean, dropping their solos, Mos Def, he dropped a few, records even after that record. But you started to see Talib really drop like on his solo run. Like he was on a very indelible solo run. It was sick how he was cranking out solo after solo after solo. Like I mean, it's not in no particular order, but like he was dropping solos and um one of the most notable solo albums that I come to know from Talib was Quality. Quality. I think Get By was on that record. Get By. Got to get by. Get by. Shoot. I mean, then you started to see even Kanye like he was even showing up around them circles. It's a shame that we never really. I mean, this could still happen, but it was a shame that we couldn't hear Kanye. Black Thought. I would have loved for that to materialize. Like speaking of, since they all was running around in the same circles with each other. Now, in no means am I trying to now let me get this out of the way. In no means am I trying to pit these two together. Like I'm just trying to be a part of the whole them beefing together and being for the beef. Because what I'm puzzled about is I'm puzzled about what they are even beefing for. What are they beefing about? I mean, anyone can help me with that. What were they really even beefing about? That's the whole thing. That's what had me puzzled. Even when I caught them on IG, them going back together. I mean, them going at it with each other, back and forth, back and forth. And I'm like, wow, what is these dudes like even going at each other about? I mean, you started to see just so much weird stuff even going on between both camps. Like Consequence, saying what he's saying, and then Talib saying what he's saying. But see, Talib has already got his thing going on. You know what I mean? Like he dropping solos after solos. Then you got Consequence saying, "Ah man, his music whack" and all this other stuff, and I'm sitting there like, really, dude? I mean, his music. I mean, it might not do anything for you, but it's doing a lot for a lot of people. And I think that what Talib means for the culture means more than what you contributed. I mean, let's be real here. I mean, Consequence can be Q-Tip's cousin and all that, all he wants to, and him riding on that whole success of. I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily a success, but I know that he's a part of that, and by his own right, Consequence was a part of that classic era, Beats Rhymes of Life, when that album dropped. He was a part of that. And, give the man his flowers equally. I'm going to give him his flowers equally because, like I said, um, for him, for him to drop something on a solo joint like that and then come right back out, and for him to be on such on a tribe joint and be on a classic track like that and then turn around and then he drops his own solo album, him being around Kanye and Kanye contributing to the album itself and doing what he's doing, and Consequence dropping Don't Quit Your Day Job, and seeing that some of the joints that was on that album did garner some type of attention. So it was just great to it was great to hear, like, oh, okay, he got a nice solo effort here, and the way that he delivered it, and the bar work and the wordplay and stuff like that, he really delivered a solid album. Don't Quit Your Day Job was a solid album in its own right. It's no bullshit. I just feel like, okay, Consequence kind of really like dropped the ball, like when going at Talib and his whole solo career. I mean, because I can name all the solo albums for you. I mean, it's just so many, but he's been on his run and he hasn't stopped. So to say that Talib's music is whack, or I mean, it might sound whack to you, and for those who don't appreciate a talented artist like Kweli, it might sound whack to you, but it's not whack to a hip hop head like me and others like me who came up on Black Star, Most, Talib, Black on Both Sides, Reflection Eternal, all that stuff. So like, when you say something is whack and you're going in on it and you haven't released music consistently like how Talib released music, then it's like, okay, you're kind of like, it sounds like you're kind of hating a bit. And that's how I took it. I took it that Consequence was kind of hating, because it's like, man, instead of getting on here, shouting at Talib, or saying this, and or whatever it is they were calling themselves doing, like whoever was siding with him, doing whatever, like it was just almost like, well, what the hell, like, what is actually going on? You know what I mean? And I had questions. I had a whole lot of questions because I'm just trying to figure out, like, what is you guys beefing about? But it did come. It was clear. Then again, it wasn't really clear what they were beefing about. But it was like, okay, well, all I'm really hearing is Consequences saying that he didn't get put on as much. If I'm not mistaken, I don't know if you guys were tuned into that, but that's the impression that I got from Consequence, that he wasn't put on enough. And I'm like, well, to rely on to think that Talib would, like, to rely on him and hold him responsible for putting you on, that's like that's much of a reach. If you ask me, that's too much of a reach, because you could just as much as you were riding on Kanye's coattails, and that's what he was doing, and he was riding high off the whole, like, one collaboration that he did on that Tribe album. It's kind of like, okay, well then, to say that somebody, to complain that somebody should have put you on, when in fact you your own man. you could have put yourself on. Matter of fact, if you're around, if you're Q-Tip's cousin, and Kanye West is not only your co-signer, but then you're on his label, or you're doing enough work with Kanye to where as though y'all more than just partners. Y'all are basically working closely together, and he's producing some of your music. Then it's just safe to say, well, then it's up to you to, like, in this business. And listen, I'm not an artist myself. I'm not going to sit here and act like, I'm some I'm an artist. I leave that to the guys that's really doing it, that's truly doing it all for the love. But if you're in this business, music period, if you're in this music business period, what you should take into consideration is that you are on your own when it comes to working. When it comes to putting yourself on, when it comes to being around the important circles, and or around important people, or next to that important person, that's always up to you to put yourself out there. You know what I mean? To leave someone responsible for your career, and that's what I was hearing, in this whole back and forth spat between these guys. So I'm like, well, you know, of course, if you were tuned in like I was tuned in, you would see that Talib Kweli riding hard high off the People's Party. That's what he I believe he still got that going on. If not, he's touring. He's touring. Overseas, and he comes back. He drops he drops a few solo albums even in between. I mean, this guy is dropping albums left and right. And to say that this guy don't have classics, or he don't, he's not like that. I'm better than him and all that. Well, let's fast forward to now. Confidence, the confidence of knowing versus nice doing business with you. Let's fast forward to those two albums, shall we? And I'm not going to play anything, but then let's fast forward. I could tell you a little bit about these albums, and in the same respect. I could tell you about the J. Rawls Talib collaborative record versus Consequence's solo record. Finally, though, Consequence did put a record out. Finally, he did do it. And like I said, I'm gonna equally give the man his flowers just as much I'm going to give Talib his flowers, because like I said, these guys managed to keep it on wax. These guys managed to keep it all about lyrics and whatnot. But although that's the case, I put one artist over the other, and that's just my little competitive take on it. Again, this is not to discourage anyone. Like, you're a fan of who you're a fan of. So if you like both, cool. I'm looking at it this way. I feel like one artist is more about the culture than the other artist. And I think that and you could take a listen to these albums if you like. Go and listen to both of those albums. I'm quite sure you're gonna you're gonna get what I'm saying when I explain to you why I feel like I rate one album over the other. I think that the J. Rawls, like I said, how many albums did Talib just drop before he dropped the J. Rawls project? Like, I'm gonna look this up for you, because again, Talib has dropped. Let me see. He dropped the Confidence of Knowing. That's already out, right? And then, but he's still riding high off the Liberation 2 album. We talking about, that's the second installment to the part one. The part one with Madlib. So he just dropped Liberation 2. Now, if we actually pull up the whole list of albums, if we're talking about, well, okay, so if we're talking about like 2024, he's released Liberation 2 with Madlib. And then in 2023, he released an album called Holy Days. That's supposed to be his supposedly Christmas album or the holiday, the holiday album. But notice he called it Holy Days, not holidays, but Holy Days. It's to put that spin on the whole. Yeah, it's to put a spin on it. And if you listen to that album, you'll quite get the message on where he's going with that. And you could, because like the whole woke thing and him being around that whole movement, the woke movement too. So with Talib, the woke movement was also what he was being attacked for. You know what I mean? Not that he invented the woke, the word woke, but that woke movement. This is right around that whole thing. This is right around that. It's right around that whole thing. So okay. So now 2024. Like I said, even if we're talking about albums that he dropped from 2020 to 2024 till now. So we're talking about he's dropped Radio Silence. And I'm sorry. Well, listen, let's just say the 2000s. He's dropped a slew of albums in the 2000s. I mean, like I said, his consistent run. He's dropped the Reflection Eternal album back in 2010, right? Like I said, that Liberation album that dropped in 2006. That the Eardrum album dropped in 2007. The second Reflection Eternal album, Revolutions Per Minute, which RPM, as far as the acronym RPM, Revolutions Per Minute, he dropped that in 2010. Then he turned around and dropped Gutter Rainbows in 2011. Then he dropped a mixtape album called We Run This Volume 7, mixed by Mr. E I forget what is an RPS fan, but it was a independent mixtape album, something that he had dropped, like it was a mixed joint. Then he dropped Prisoner of Conscience in 2013. Gravitas. He dropped Gravitas in 2013. Indy 500 in 2015. I think that album was him and Ninth Wonder. That was the Ninth Wonder collaborative album. Gravitas, I'm not sure. Yeah, he dropped Gravitas as well. That was through his Javoti Media. He dropped that album. That was a solid project. The Seven. He dropped the EP in 2017 called The Seven. Him and Styles P put that project together. That was him and Styles P together. So he dropped a collaborative album with him and Styles P called The Seven, 2017. 2017 again, he dropped Radio Silence. Then he turned around, he dropped an album called Gotham, which was a collaborative album with him and Diamond D. All right. Then, of course, he dropped the joint Holy Days, and then he dropped Liberation 2, the second installment. Again, like I mentioned, in this year, he dropped the collaborative album with Madlib, and then went on to drop The Confidence of Knowing. So he's still riding high. Again, the Liberation 2 album, right, with him and Madlib, is an album that's widely appreciated through the whole underground hip hop sphere. So it's interesting to know that he turns right back around and drops another album. This is how consistent Talib is. He's really consistent with it. So, and even if you didn't have time to listen to this one album or this album or that album, you didn't have time to listen to each album, you you still you of course you still have time. You can always go in. You can always it's always time. Like listen, you go back, listen to all these albums. Like I do it. I have a whole playlist with nothing but Talib Kweli stuff. And what I'll do is that's my way of listening to every album by playing the playlist. But why am I saying all this? Because I'm saying that between him and Consequence, because even if I read Consequence's whole discography, it's not lengthy, and that's not to say we're gonna like I'm contributing to the competitive edge thing here, but it's crazy how one artist is questioning the validity of a certain artist when they're dropping albums consistently. Talib Kweli's dropped albums since, man, when was the last time? What was it? 98, 99? He's dropped stuff since then, since the whole Black Star Reflection Eternal stuff. Talib's been dropping music since then, and he hasn't stopped. The whole 2000, Talib's been dropping music. But, we're going to act like his validity, he doesn't really mean anything or whatever. And, Consequence, because he wants to ride high off that Stressed Out track. He wants to ride high so much off of that. You know what I'm saying? Again, like I said, give the man his flowers. Equally give Consequences flowers because he is a dope MC in his own right. You know what I'm saying? The way he plays the words, the way he delivers. You know what I'm saying? Don't Quit Your Day Job was a nice effort. It definitely was. I suggest y'all go and check that album out. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know how many heads know about Consequence. Like I said, I know him from doing that one song on Tribe's Beats Rhymes of Life album. And then he turns around, he resurfaces again, take him to the Cleaners, then a few other mixtape, albums, then Don't Quit Your Day Job. When finally we got to see that he's with good music. Consequence, is signed to good music. Like I said, him and Kanye's been working closely together because he's been around the circle with Kanye. You know what I'm saying? But how did he come to be in the same circle with Kanye West? Well, of course, Q-Tip is his cousin. So that is benefits there to have someone who's a pioneer in this hip hop shit to be your family, and then that way you get put on in such a way. You know what I mean? Because now you listen, you get in the studio, they see what you're working with, they see, oh, this dude can rhyme. And that's how it did start. He rhyming in ciphers, rhyming. Like get him, he's in the cipher, he's doing his thing, and he can rhyme with the best of them. And then, all of a sudden, he gets that cosign. You know what I'm saying? And it did really help that you're cousins to Q-Tip. That helped a lot. So it's safe to say that when we speak of one artist actually riding coattails than the other artists, because it's almost like, okay, see, now this is where it doesn't make sense to me that you would question the validity of one artist versus the other now. Because when you are questioning their validity, you have to know one thing. That other artist that you question, I'm speaking of Consequence questioning Talib Kweli on his validity. Well, he's been working nonstop. I think that it's safe to say that the whole 2000, Talib's been constantly in rotation. Like I said, even if mainstream radio is not playing Talib Kweli's music like that, it's still safe to say that when we speak of the underground hip hop culture, the movement and such, Talib Kweli name rings bells all over the hip hop sphere. Over the other artists, right? But that's not to take the flowers away from Consequence again, because if you are an avid, true hip hop head, you'll know who Consequence is. You'll know that okay, the music that he has dropped. You know what I'm saying? You know, like how his whole metamorphosis has happened. You know where he started at, and you now know where he's going or where he's at now. I got the pleasure of listening to Nice Doing Business with You. And again, I'm not claiming to be the best critique when it comes to music or me being a Mr. Know-it-all or I'm the world's greatest hip hop historian. I'm just a hip hop archaeologist. I just know that when I listen to certain artists and I listen to especially hip hop artists, MCs, lyricists who truly talk about things that matter, that speak of the culture. I mean, I don't want to ruin anything for you. You can go listen to Consequence, Nice Doing Business with You album if you like. But I'm going to tell you right now, it's surprising to me that he has stepped away from the don't quit your day job aesthetic and went the route of trying to go commercial. I've always considered Consequence to be a backpack rapper. That's what I consider him to be. But I guess, even in between when when he was on Don't Quit Your Day Job, you kind of hear that street bravado kind of sort of in his delivery a bit. Or I guess with Don't Quit Your Day Job, Don't Quit Your Day Job was more like a concept album. So if you didn't know Consequence before, you knew Consequence. He has reinvented himself on Don't Quit Your Day Job. It's an album where he reinvented himself. Again, he's from Queens, New York. I'm not sure that most people, because I'm from Philadelphia. I'm born and raised here in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. All right. And I'm not quite sure if many people, unless you are an avid hip hop head, I'm not sure if many people would know who Consequence is like that, unless they really listening. And I could tell you that I really listen. I'm like I said, I'm not claiming to be the world's biggest hip hop historian or nothing like that. But I dig for music. And that's what I've been doing, since my time in high school, going to record store to record store. I remember it was about like maybe 3 or 4 record stores downtown. And then I lived out the outskirts of Philadelphia, the city where I'm from. I lived on the outskirts. So there was like 2 record stores that I would frequent to. And like when I was living out in the suburbs, I would frequent the 2 record stores that was mainly known out there. I think one of the record stores, I think it was called Coconuts at the time. But then the record store that was out there, which was the mom and pop joint, was called Sounds of Upper Darby. If anybody's familiar with Delaware County, the suburbs of Philadelphia, the outskirts of it. Now, if you're familiar with the city of Philadelphia, you had such record stores like you had Tower Records at the time, Sounds of Market. That was the mom and pop. That was the equivalent to Sounds of Upper Darby, because notice the whole Sounds franchise, they moved. I'm not sure. Those are the only 2 Sounds franchises that I knew about. But then you had the other record store, Funko Mart. There was another record store called Funko Mart. Then, like I said, you had the commercial record store, which was called Tower Records. This was I say commercial, but it was more like the corporate record store, because now This was like a corporate chain. Tower Records was like almost everywhere. But of course, in that time, you had other record stores at the time too. Then there was another one. I think that one was Coconuts. There was another one that was down Walnut Street in downtown. Sounds of Market was on 11th and Market. Then you had Funko Mart, I believe that was on Chestnut, I believe, or was it on Market Street? It probably was on Market Street. Yeah, because, well, again, not to go too in deep with all that, just know that there were 3 record stores that I frequent to. So this is how I come to know about my music. I come to know about certain artists because then you'll have an in-house DJ will play music they will spin records in there. And sometimes I would just off the strength like get free music or free records or cassette tapes and stuff from the actual in-house DJ. I knew some of the owners. I knew the owners in there, so sometimes they would just give me like free stuff, merch and all that, stickers, um, even album covers to hang on my wall, whatever, like posters and all that stuff. So this is how I come to know about certain artists because I would dig through the archives and what they had displayed and know that okay, certain stuff. Then of course I come across the Beats Rhymes of Life album because Tribe at the time we talking about from 91 all the way down to like 98. They were really killing it in the 90s. Tribe was, they was that group. So of course, knowing about Tribe, then I see, you know, um, their track list. I see who's featured on what or whatever, and that's how I got I seen Consequences name. It became familiar to me. Fast forward to when he dropped "Don't Quit Your Day Job." I'm like, because again, he dropped a couple projects even before "Don't Quit Your Day Job," but I wasn't really on Consequence like that. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm thinking to myself, well, Tribe always, what Tribe Called Quest do a lot is that they will put on other artists. And what certain artists will do themselves is have some artists from out of nowhere, like some featured lyricist or MC featured on tracks. And you probably would just only hear them on that one track until they drop a solo. That might be a few months down the line or a year or two down the line. And then that's it. Then I'm not gonna say that's it, but it's like, okay, then you see, oh yeah, I remember he was on this certain song, blah, blah, blah. But only if you're doing your homework, if you're really digging into the archives, you're digging into history, that you'll know that, okay, I'm familiar with this artist, what he was doing. So now I know. But like I said, him being from Queens, it kind of to me feels like, only most because of where he comes from, they would know him mostly there. And that's how it is with a lot of artists. Like shout outs to my man Del P. Yeah, although Del P is like known from England to the West Coast, from the West Coast to Japan to wherever. Like his name is ringing bells across across the whole landscape now. Across the world even. But that's because of putting in that work and being featured on stuff. And like when you're getting cosigns from such people like from Black Thought all the way to doing joints with Grand Puba and Royal Flush. That's what I'm saying. Del P. Excuse me, I'm about to say Talib Kweli. Del P. That's why I salute that brother. Because he's just phenomenal. You know what I'm saying? I have to throw this in there. I can't make this up. It's in stores. It's on all platforms. Get it on Bandcamp, please. Get that joint on Bandcamp, by the way. $10. And you want to contribute more, please do so. Support great music, by the way. Speaking of great music, like I said, these guys put out great music. They do. I'm not going to take nothing away from Consequence. He does. I mean, is it a solid effort? I'm speaking of his new album. Is Nice Doing Business with You a solid album? Is it? I would say so. It's just that it definitely took the different route that Don't Quit Your Day Job went. It took that different route. And not that you should marginalize a artist. You shouldn't marginalize an artist. But I think that if we're going to speak on that, speaking of the marginalized part, we can't expect an artist to stay in that same pocket. But guess what? Speaking of the consistent artists, the one who dropped consistent LPs left and right, right? Well, Talib has always kept it culture, even though there was questions around him dropping, even though there was questions around Eardrum. What do I mean questions around the Eardrum album? Well, because Justin Timberlake was on that album, Nora Jones was on that album. That's why. And we know, well, Nora Jones album, I'm going to say, sounds to me a lot more urban, if we want to use that word, right? She sounds more urban, or I mean, I guess Justin Timberlake is too. Anyway, there was questions around that album, just like there was questions with Common's album, Electric Circus. You know what I'm saying? Some people was again, this is what they were doing with Talib. They were, saying that he kind of sort of sold out or whatever. Just because we seen him do joints, with them too. Or I mean, I like the Nora Jones track just as much as anybody. I mean, I don't know if there was any questions, but I guess I could speak for myself when I say I didn't expect for him to do a joint with Justin Timberlake, and I didn't expect him to see Nora Jones on the album. So I'm like, okay, this is different. The Eardrum album was very different, but it still kept it culture. And this is why I say the artist that's doing the most consistent work is the one that's keeping it culture. Understand me when I tell you. The one that's doing the consistent work, like I said, the whole 2000, I just name dropped all the albums. I name dropped years that and the title of the album, when he put those albums out. You can safely say that from the top of 2000, and I'm not going to include the Reflection Eternal Black Star. I'm talking about the whole top of 2000 all the way till now. He's been dropping music. So whether you think that Talib Kweli is underappreciated or whatever, which he is, he's very underappreciated. He's still widely known in the hip hop sphere. He's known in the he's about the culture. So that's what I'm saying. He's definitely about the culture. I mean, there's no denying that. Talib is definitely about the culture. Because it's late, and like I said, I was gonna place something, but because it's late, I don't want to do that. But I can just safely tell you this: that when you listen to the Rawls collaborative album, it'll definitely wake that part of you up. It'll definitely wake that hip hop fan in you. Because like I said, we can go off on the features. Matter of fact, let's go through the features. Jametta Rose, Blue, is featured on here. Tri-State from Gold Chain Music. That's Planet Asia's homie. Coast Contra's on this album. Sky Zoo, Buckshot, Roscos. Come on now. Planet Asia's on here. IDK, Feel the Agony, Middle Child, Georgia and Modro, Diani. I think that's one of Talib's. I think that's his daughter, and she spits, or is it his son? I think it's Imani and Diani. I'm not sure. I'll get more info on that. But Solene, Nico Eyes or something. It's Nico Nikois. Yeah, like two names. Capital Niko space capital Is. Nico is or something like that. So yeah, like that's the that's who he has featured on the album. So when it comes to collaborations, his collaborations be crazy. Like that album is just as dope as the Common Pete Rock album. I'm gonna put Talib and J. Rawls album up there with the Common Pete Rock album, even though Common and Pete Rock's album right now is getting a lot of acclaim. That's probably to me, that's probably the best album of 2024. What the Common P Rock joint is probably my favorite album of this whole year that's dropped. And there's a lot of albums that I have listened to, but that Common P Rock album is at the top of my list. And I gotta say that the J. Rawls Talib joint, I don't know if that comes in third or fifth, but it's definitely a favorite album of mine right now. I say to this, y'all got to go listen to the albums yourself. This was just like a little mini critique, because it's not in no way contributing to the back and forth. I'm pretty sure that those guys have squashed things, or they just don't care to squash anything. It's just more of they just doing them, and it is what it is. Maybe they'll come back to form again. Maybe they'll, speak again. Who knows? But it's just safe to say that one artist went a certain route where the other artist stayed in the same pocket. Talib, in my opinion, stayed in that cultural pocket, the hip hop. He keeps it hip hop all the time. I mean, the features is enough for me. Anytime I see, like anytime I see Talib even drop a project, and we're talking about a widely celebrated Brooklyn MC, Talib Kweli, straight from Brooklyn. That Consequence, he's straight from Queens, and he adopts the moniker Queens get the money. You know what I'm saying? Because that is their their saying, Queens get the money. You know what I'm saying? So it's Queens versus Brooklyn. Although I'm not from New York, but I listen to a lot of New York MCs, a lot of New York hip hop. I'm sure we all do. I mean, if you really an avid hip hop head and you from the East Coast, no matter if we're from Jersey or Philly, Rhode Island, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Boston, by the way, Boston, Massachusetts, or whether we're from the DMV, Maryland, Virginia, and Delaware. On the East Coast, we've listened to a lot of New York hip hop. We know, because that's where the birthplace, the Bronx. That's the Bronx. That's where hip hop was the birthplace of. Even though that raised a lot of questions, but I'm still going to go with that because, again, I was raised on New York hip hop, and to see these two guys coming from where they're coming from, Brooklyn and Queens, BQE, by the way. I'm not sure what Brooklyn and Queens stands for. BQ. Yeah, I think that's Bronx and the Bronx. That might be yeah. Well, anyway, again, I told you I'm not from New York, so I couldn't really even tell you. Um, I just I'm just hearing things. Did a little research or heard the heard these sayings before, these quotes before, and now I'm whatever. Anyway, Consequence, Talib, both dropped albums. I think that they dropped albums in the same time, not exactly the same time. Let me reiterate that they didn't drop albums on the same day or at the same time. It's just that it's surprising to see that Consequence finally dropped an album. And like I said, the album doesn't sound anything like Don't Quit Your Day Job. Although I'm guilty for wanting to hear Consequence stay in that same pocket like he did in Don't Quit Your Day Job, but he didn't do that. And so I'm listening to the album and I'm like, well, the album's okay. I mean, there's some messages and some of the music later on in the album. Like I said, you got to go and listen to the album yourself. There's some there's some messages in there. He has one song that's about addiction, and then he has another song that I guess that's a call and a respect call to some of his friends who are locked up or whatever, or who got locked up around the neighborhood. He talks a lot about his neighborhood and where he come from and his upbringing and such and such and such. So he does go into that. You can expect that from an artist from my time to come out to come with the storytelling and stuff like that, because artists like that are going to do that. Even if he's an underappreciated artist, he's still going to come from off the top with the storytelling. He's still going to give you that. He's still going to give you raw delivery, lyricism. He's still going to keep it like that, because that's just what artists like Talib Kweli and Most Def and artists like Black Thought and Common, artists, even Consequence. Like I said, give Consequences flowers. We're not going to say don't give him his flowers. Indeed, give him his flowers. Give him his flowers. Absolutely. You know what I mean? Give him his flowers by all means. You know what I mean? Like that's not to take anything from. Listen, it's not to take anything from that guy. It's not to take anything from him, because he's put out he can put out a quality album. He can. That's not to say that Nice Doing Business with You is not a quality album, because it is. It is a quality album. It's just nice to know that an artist from my time, I'm 42 years old, so my time, that 90s, that was when I was a preteen, and or yeah, my preteen teenage stage. I was in high school. So for me, I grew up on those artists. So it's always, even though, like, artists that come from that time, like, they get questioned a lot. You know what I'm saying? Could they reinvent the wheel? Could they, like we see LL Cool J. We see, a funny thing though, when we talk about reinventing someone's self, we see LL Cool J and Q-Tip reinvent the wheel. I mean, at least LL. We already know what Q-Tip is coming with. Q-Tip, his beats have be. I mean, his instrumentation. I like to say that word, instrumentation. His instrumentation has become the stuff of legends. I mean, the way he just, it, man, I couldn't even explain to you Q-Tip's style of production. It's out of this world. His style of production is really out of this world. And I'm telling you, Q-Tip could produce a slew. We're going to hear a lot from Q-Tip's new style of production. We're going to hear it. And I'm telling you, it's going to have a lot of artists standing out. Because I know one thing y'all didn't know, and I don't really want to mention this person's name because, we don't talk about mainstream artists around here. But however, um, fun fact, Megan Thee Stallion at one point, before she became the Megan Thee Stallion that we know, she was the Megan Thee Stallion, the freestyle champ, the kid, dropping videos of freestyling here and there. Because that's when I first heard her. Like she was coming from Texas, and she came up, she went to New York, and she got a major cosign actually from Q-Tip. Y'all probably didn't know that she had a major cosign from Q-Tip. So it would have looked like she would have actually worked with Q-Tip if she didn't go the route that she went. So I mean, that I forget where I got that from or whatever, but I think from maybe a magazine it was, or maybe the internet actually. You know what I'm saying? And always, you'll get my information. I get it from like off of YouTube or something like that. But then again, Google pops up with something. When Megan Thee Stallion first got her start, she was co-signed by Q-Tip. So it would have been interesting to hear her over some Q-Tip production. But however, it didn't go that way. But we're not going to talk about Megan Thee Stallion. We don't, like I said, we don't do commercial rappers around here. We don't do all that. At least for me, I don't do the commercial, the like the widely known rappers, that's this whole ratchet culture. I don't do none of that stuff. But I will tell you this, that when it comes to reinventing the wheel and artists reinventing themselves, LL Cool J surprised me with the Force album. He really did. He surprised me with the Force album because his subject matter, of course, he always keeps it smooth. LL always keeps it smooth. I never come to know LL to actually drop jewels or drop 5% or wisdomatic talk. That's my favorite word, wisdomatic. I never known LL to drop wisdom, wisdom talk or knowledge of self. I never known him to do that. So that was interesting to hear him speak on some knowledge of self. But again, because of how things are going on in how things are going on in the world and in this time right now, I think that you'll find that a lot of people will surprise you the direction that they're taking their platform or their voice or the direction that they're taking their music now. And it's going to be from the unexpected or people that like I said, that will surprise the hell out of you. So it's interesting to hear that the direction that LL took his music and what he was talking about. But anyway, back to Consequence Talib. Go listen to Talib and Jay Rawls. Let me say it fully. Check out Talib Kweli and Jay Rawls, The Confidence of Knowing and Consequence. Nice doing business with you. Make sure that you go and check those albums out. And I'm telling you, again, you won't be disappointed with the Talib album. You won't be disappointed. I can't say, I mean, I guess for those who are just now being introduced to who Consequence is, like I said, if you're an avid hip hop head, you know who Consequence is. It's just that Consequence, for me, how I knew him or got I'm not gonna say I got reintroduced to him, or should I say, yeah, or maybe I can say that I got reintroduced to Consequence when he dropped "Don't Quit Your Day Job." So when he dropped that album, I'm like, okay, wow, this is the guy that was from that Stressed Out track. And it was a standout. It was a standout part. He had a standout part in that song. He really did. It was Tribe, Faith Evans, and Consequence. Song was called Stressed Out. So and it's a dope track. Like Stressed Out, that's probably one of my all-time favorite Tribe Called Quest songs. That's probably one of my favorites. So it's awesome to know that, Q-Tip put his cousin on, threw him on the joint and said, go ahead, do your thing, show us what you got. And he just knocked it out the park. Yeah, he did. I mean, go listen to Stressed Out. Go listen to it. Tribe Called Quest featuring Faith Evans and Consequence. Go listen to that joint Stressed Out. And I'm telling you, you'll see what I'm talking about. It's a dope cut. Um, did I get introduced to Consequence from that song? I did, but I guess I wasn't really paying attention to Consequence part. Even now, I'm not going to say I wasn't paying attention to his part because I did hear what he had to say. I couldn't quote word for word, of what, but I know that he did, his part stood out. It's just that I guess because it was Tribe Called Quest, we just thinking this whole time, oh, Tribe, like they got a new featured artist. Oh, okay, cool. And didn't even really realize that, you know, but I mean it's like that anyway. I mean, who would have pointed that out? You know what I'm saying? Like that's what artists do. You know what I mean? They get a cameo appearance in someone's album, and they show up on the album. They're on a few tracks or whatever like that, and that's how they get reintroduced. And then maybe from there, they'll get reintroduced. They'll get introduced to the world through dropping a solo album. They might get signed, but from who, we wouldn't know that until somebody like him. Kanye West co-signs him, signs him on Good Music, his Good Music label. I'm not sure if he was signed then to Kanye on Take Him to the Cleaners, but I'm sure that Don't Quit Your Day Job, that's when you started to really see his reemergence. And then the rest is history. But it's safe to say that, in my opinion, I believe that one artist is, listen, let me not even come with that talk no more. Let me not even speak like that. They both are for the culture. We ain't gonna create a divide over here. They're both for the culture. I just feel like, again, I'm just puzzled as the next person. And if you know about their supposed back and forth, you know that it was very puzzling, what they were even beefing about. And I believe it was really over nonsense. It wasn't really about anything. But anyway, that's, I guess, my forum or discussion a bit, my take on the whole, the two, like I said, what do I think about the albums in total? What do I think about them? What do I think about Consequences project versus Talib's joint? I think that if you listen to the Talib J. Rawls joint, it is really a nostalgic vibe back to let me see, what is it, a nostalgic vibe back to the raucous era. Yeah, I'm gonna say that. It gives me raucous vibes. It gives me Reflection Eternal, Black Star. It gives me those kind of vibes. That's where I think he took it back to. Yeah. Again, Talib Kweli, riding high off of the Madlib collaborative album. Such songs like Air Quotes is on there. You know what I mean? air quotes and we gotta look this up. What else? Air quotes and it was another standout track on here. I like the joint SWAT with Coast Contra. Turnstile was dope too. But Breathe Eyes Memory and no, I'm sorry. I'm reading the wrong album. My bad. So on the Liberation 2 album, my bad, the Liberation 2 album. By the way, that album, the tracks that um the tracks that I brought up was off of the J. Rawls album. Talib J. Rawls, The Confidence Unknown, by the way. The Liberation 2, such songs like Air Quotes is on there. Um, what else? Yeah, Air Quotes was on this joint. I like that joint, Air Quotes. And then the track with him and his children. I think her name was Amani. After These Messages was another standout to me. So Air Quotes was dope. Um, the joint with Geopoly, Loop Digger's Revenge. But that's of course is Madlib taking it back to um the Loop Pack when he was taking it back to that. He was taking it back to that time. So man, the West Coast was really saying something when they was on their incredible run in the 90s. The whole wake up show, that whole movement around like what was that 97, 98? Yeah. So the West Coast was really killing it. Another standout on that on the Mad Lib joint was Richie's Part 2. Richie's Part 2, that was with West Side Gun. So West Side Gun is on the Mad Lib 2 album. Incredible, right? Yeah, of course. West Side Gun, that's another artist right there that I can totally appreciate. West Side Gun. I'm not even gonna say he's an undercover hip hop head. He's a hip hop head. He is. Dude just knows his shit. Like, I mean, he'll surprise the hell out of you. Like when I just seen West Side Gun, matter of fact, speaking about him, I just seen him on his IG. I think he's got something that he's cooking up with Ghostface Killer, Raekwon, and Capadonna. So man, like that is totally fucking awesome. Like that he's even doing that. West Side Gun is always one to always um take it up a notch. And he's been one to take those chances. I mean, the last album, his last joint, I wasn't really too crazy about it because I didn't really like the direction that I just really feel like West Side Gun just always sounds better on Derringer beats. On I guess if you want to call them soft boom bap, because that's what it sounds like to me. Derringer's sound is more like soft boom bap or slowed up boom bap. Yeah, Derringer is he's completely different from DJ Premier. He does the slow down boom bap, where DJ Premier does the sped up boom bap. If it's safe to say that, I don't know. He kind of puts me in the mind a little bit of Alchemist, and he got that RZA flavor in there too in his beat style. So West Side Gun for me, that's what he just sound. I mean, we're just speaking on West Side Gun now. This totally went all different other avenues with different other artists, but I feel like West Side Gun. It doesn't surprise me that he shows up on the Talib album because actually Black Star was on West Side Gun's album. What was the name of the album? Was it Pray for Paris? I believe it was Pray for Paris. It wasn't on And They Pray for Me. I think it was Pray for Paris. I believe it was. I might have to pull that up. I believe it was Pray for Paris that they were on that. And it doesn't surprise me. What Talib did with that Mad Lib Liberation 2 album is incredible. And this is what I'm talking about. Two albums within this whole year, within this year alone, critically acclaimed albums. And to question the man's validity. Come on, Consequence. Stop that. You question his validity. You can't question a man's validity like that when he drops classic after classic. In my opinion, Talib drops classics. He drops classics. Yeah, all day. Talib Kweli drops classic albums. Now, I can't say that every joint, like I would have to comb through all of his stuff, but because he has a long discography, he has some quality songs on each album. Yeah. I actually listened to every album. I've listened to all his albums. I didn't really get the chance to, because I mean, we'll be all. Listen, I would have a lengthy schedule if I'm going to be reviewing albums, and I gotta say, like, he has a lengthy discography. Talib does, and he has a lot of quality stuff. His albums are quality. That's why, to me, he's a standout. So the question is, man's validity, consequences out of pocket with that. But the man overall gets his flowers because he did drop something solid. He dropped a solid album. I'm gonna say it is solid. I would much rather hear Consequence than hear all of this other mess that's out today, to be honest with you. You know what I'm saying? Only because of the fact that, he talks his shit. He's in your face with it. You know what I mean? His bravado. You know what I mean? Even though he is a little braggadocious, you know what I'm saying? He's going a different lane with it. Other than Talib, he's in a different. Yeah, he hits. It's almost like he's flirting with the mainstream with this album. He was flirting with the mainstream, kind of, sort of. You know what I'm saying? He has YNW Melly on the album. Eh, yeah. I'm not really a fan of like these new artists, but I mean, then he does have his son on the album. His son's name is Caden, the crown holder. You know what I'm saying? So, he got some of the, he got young talent. His son, Ramen. So, I mean, that's always refreshing to see that, that he at least got the kid under his wing, and hopefully he keeps it keeps it positive. You know what I mean? Like, I think the kid is every bit of like 10 or 11. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, he can't be rhyming about big man stuff. You know what I mean? Like grown man shit. He, got to keep it clean. But before I go, just want to tap in a little bit to what we got, what has dropped. I'm gonna tap in a little bit. Like I said, nice doing business with you. That's out right now. Talib Kweli and J. Rawls, The Confidence of Knowing is out. Then there's tracks. Check out also BJ the Chicago Kid has an album out called Gravy. Um, Gotta check out joints like Cadillac Smoke, Weight of the World off of Wrong Streets. I did a review of that album yesterday. So that's an interesting album. Very interesting. Derringer, Wrong Streets. Yeah, classic. Um What else is out? I know the Hoodies got an album out. The Hoodies here, they got an album. Check out that joint Drug Plots. It's DJ Deadeye, Method Man, Terminology, and Expected Deck is on there. Okay, so I see that. El Camino from Griselda has a joint out called Millionaire. That's out. Um, yeah, it looked like SD Knack, because you know SD Knack is another Griselda signed artist. He's on the label. Um, Benny the Butcher and 38 Special. Check out their joint, Jesus Arms. Um, what else is out? Did I say the Hoodies? Because I did announce the Hoodies got an album. Here it go, right here. The Hoodies. Boom. Speaking of young talent, the Hoodies, they just dropped a four track EP. So check that out. Closer, Lovebirds, Despise, featuring Miss Tiff, Not the Same. So yeah, peep they EP that's out. Peep that joint. Nobody Bigger Than We, that's out. Shoot, I can go on for days, man. Then Locksmith trading bars on the joint called Barcode, trading bars with Demrick and Jaron Benton. Few will know who those guys are, but if you are a fan, or if you're a fan of Hobson, if you're a fan of Hobson, you're a fan of let me see who's in this pocket, because I think they come from, they're like West Coast artists. And if you know about Odd Future, all of that, that's where they came up around that same period when those guys came out. So yeah, man, check the Locksmith out. Locksmith always dropping bars. He's crazy with it. He's really crazy with it. Um, I believe that's it, man. Like that's actually it. Um, wow. Yeah, a lot of there's some stuff that dropped. You know what I mean? Like Naughty by Nature, they dropped a best of called The Naughtiest. So it's a few joints that's worth checking out, and you can always check out these things. Of course, I'm going to be giving y'all some. I'm going to be giving y'all some more. Like when I find out about what other stuff that has dropped, then of course I'm going to let y'all know about it on another segment of another Lazy Sunday. Which it's actually Sunday today. I guess we can include this as another lazy Sunday, because it's another lazy Sunday afternoon is the afternoon. So this is Sunday morning. So excuse me. But yeah. That's my time, y'all. That's my time. I'm gonna take it down. I'm actually getting a little heavy eyed right now. But I'm just psyched to, speak on this whole thing. Well, not so much speak on it, but because I've surprised that Consequence finally dropped this project, and then Talib, along with Jay Rawls, they dropped their project. So it's interesting to see that contrast, because what most people probably did not know, that these two had some kind of beef with each other. I didn't know that until I'm on IG, and again, the rest is history. Um, if you want to if you want to do a chronicle of that, I guess you could comb through their. Actually, I did check out. I was on Consequences live. I mean, not on his live. I was on Consequences page when I checked it out on IG. I think he might have got rid of all that. I think that's what he did. I'm not sure what Talib did, but I know that Talib, he always, like, he engages with people. Like, so if you got something to say, he'll engage with you. Like Talib was like that. So I'm like, wow. And this is why he was doing the people party and about to go on tour and do his stuff. Like, I mean, he was going in on people. Yeah. Anybody that, I mean, people are going to disagree with you, but he actually was speaking his truth. And people going in on him. And I didn't know where half this stuff was coming from. I'm like, whoa, this is crazy. It was a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff. It was I can even tell you in its entirety or what was what, but I just know that it was just weird. And so it was just interesting to see Talib and Consequence. I'm like, really? These two going at it with each other. So I'm like, all right, well, we'll see, later on, like what transpires from all of this. And luckily, these guys kept it on wax. They kept it with bars. Something that we hope that Drake and Kendrick can do. Although I'm just dying for another Kendrick album. I'm dying to hear, what new music Kendrick has in store. You know what I mean? We're gonna be surprised with that to see what he gonna cook up. We'll be mad surprised. That's all I'm gonna say to that. I don't know nothing personally, but we're gonna be surprised. I know I'm gonna be as I was when I first discovered Wu Tang or Nas album. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to have the same feeling with Kendrick. You know what I'm saying? My youth is always there when it comes to hip hop music. So I'm always like that. But anyway, that's my time, people. I'm going to take it down. It is 1:35 in the morning, Sunday, October 6th. So therefore, that was my take on the whole Talib consequence. Not so much speaking that much on the situation, but maybe giving you a little bit of bits and pieces of history and some of the knowledge of what I come to know about these two artists. But it's just interesting just to see that these two have dropped solid projects and they're still doing it. And that's always good to see. It's always good to see, by the way. It's good to see that. It's good to see MC Light dropped her new project and LL collaborating with Q-Tip, and he drops his new album, The Forest. Um, Not quite sure what MC now. Let me before I go. Let me because I gotta come correct with these things. I gotta come correct. But the name of MC Light's album actually right now is called geez, wait a minute. The name of her album, what is it called? One of One. I think that's the name of the project. So MC Light's project, her new project is called One of One. LL and Q-Tip, they collaborated on an album together called The Force. Rakim, he dropped a joint to himself called what is it? The Rebirth. What is it? Shoot, man, God. Thank God for these devices, right? Um, Let me see. Let me look that up because I want to come correct with this stuff. All right, so Rakim, he dropped this joint, God's Network. That's what I had it on the tip of my tongue. God's Network, the Rebirth. So it's good to see the pioneers dropping projects, by the way. Yeah, and there's so much more where that came from. So it's just great to see that artists from my time period, growing up, even dropping projects together. That's that's awesome to see that. So, yo, anything that I announced in here, go over to wherever platform you choose and go listen to those albums. Um, just straight up nonstop heat that be dropping. Gotta stay in tune with the hip hop music because there is hip hop out there. Be archaeologists, people, and dig for this music because, like I said, I don't want to quote what everybody is thinking or saying, but it's like before it becomes a lost and dying art, it don't have to be a lost and dying anything as long as you keep it alive in your heart and in your ears. You know what I'm saying? Keep it in your heart and in your ears. If you could do that, that's how the music will stay alive. You know what I'm saying? Other than that, it's you'll just be spoon fed all of this garbage. And if that's what you want, if you want all this TikTok bull crap and all that, if you want all this ratchet mess, then that's on you. I just know that when it comes to hip hop music, I'm always digging in the archives. Either that or I'm digging. Period. I'm right on it. So again, go check out Talib Kweli and Jay Rawls, The Confidence of Knowing, and Consequence. Nice doing business with you. Go check those albums out. I know I said verses, but those two guys do deserve their flowers. They do. Just don't understand what all the beefing was about, but I'm glad to see that they put their projects out, and I hope and hopefully, you know what I'm saying, from this point on, things would elevate to where they, we hear them on the track together, hopefully, right? So, all right. Well, that's my time again. I know I said that before, but that's my time. I'm gonna take it down here. Listen, you like what you see on this page, go follow my channel, check out my content, whatever you like it, subscribe to my channel. I'm going to be delivering and bringing so much more to the table. Um, but yes, peace and love to you all. Love y'all. Take it easy.